You walk through your front door after a 2-hour dinner party. You drop your keys, collapse onto the couch, and stare at the ceiling. You are not just tired, you feel entirely hollowed out, incapable of forming a single coherent sentence. The world calls this being an introvert, but science calls it allostatic overload. Your social battery is not a metaphor, it is a strict biological reality. Today, we are going to look at the exact mechanism draining your energy and how you can manage this computational load without hiding from the world. To understand this exhaustion, you have to stop thinking of your brain as a passive receiver of information. Neuroscience has shifted toward a model called the predictive processing framework. Your brain is an inference machine. It does not wait for things to happen. It constantly generates predictions about what is going to happen next. When you sit in a quiet room reading a book, the environment is static. Your brain makes accurate predictions, and it uses very little metabolic energy. The cost of living in that moment is incredibly low. But when you sit across from another human being, the environment becomes chaotic. You are now tracking facial microexpressions, vocal pitch changes, and body language shifts in real time. Your brain has to predict all of these variables simultaneously. Every time your conversation partner drops their smile or changes the subject unexpectedly, your brain registers a prediction error. It must rapidly fire neural networks to update its model of reality. This burns glucose and oxygen. Your exhaustion is simply your brain running out of literal fuel. This brings up an obvious question. If socializing is so biologically expensive, why do extroverts seem to gain energy from it? The truth is that extroverts do not possess magical brains that bypass this metabolic cost. They burn just as much glucose processing those prediction errors. The difference is entirely in their dopamine sensitivity. When extroverts socialize, their brains release a massive flood of dopamine. Dopamine acts as a natural stimulant and a neurological painkiller. It temporarily masks the biological cost of the interaction. They are spending the exact same energy, but getting a massive chemical payout. Because this is a metabolic deficit and not a personality flaw, you can fix it strategically. The first practical patch is to redefine how you rest. We call this computational decompression. To actually recharge, you do not just need to be away from people, you need to place yourself in a low prediction error environment. This means an environment that is highly predictable, sensory stable, and requires absolutely zero active social processing. Watching a familiar movie or walking a known path allows your brain to stop generating social predictions. When you feel that hollow exhaustion, scrolling through social media does not work as decompression. You are still feeding your brain faces, text, and unpredictable social data. Your visual cortex is still working frantically to decode intentions and emotional states. Real computational decompression requires sensory fasting. Turn down the lights, put on noise-canceling headphones, and give your brain a physical break from prediction errors. Even 20 minutes of this intentional, low-data state will restore your glucose levels faster than hours of distracted phone scrolling on the couch. Now that we understand the baseline cost of socializing, we can look at the environmental multipliers that accelerate this drain. Background noise is one of the biggest culprits. In a crowded restaurant, your prefrontal cortex has to actively suppress the chaotic audio to focus on the person in front of you. This process is called auditory scene analysis, and it doubles your cognitive load. You are simultaneously trying to run the predictive algorithms of a conversation while actively fighting off irrelevant sensory data. No wonder you leave the dinner feeling entirely depleted. This principle also explains why video calls are vastly more exhausting than physical meetings. In real life, your brain uses spatial audio and peripheral vision to naturally track social dynamics. On a video call, those natural cues are stripped away. Micro-expressions blur due to lag, and the audio drops out for milliseconds at a time. Your predictive models constantly fail because the data is incomplete. Your brain attempts to bridge the gap of missing information by hyperfocusing, which burns through your metabolic resources at an alarming rate. The processing cost goes beyond just visual and auditory data. The true heavy lifting comes from what cognitive neuroscientists call mentalizing. Mentalizing is the ability to track the beliefs, intents, and emotions of others. When you speak to someone, you are running a constant background simulation of their mind. You are asking yourself what they know, how they will react, and whether they are being genuine. This consumes an immense amount of working memory. When you feel brain fog after networking, your working memory has simply hit its structural ceiling. We see the ultimate proof of this computational load in neurodivergent individuals, particularly those with autism or ADHD. For neurotypical people, much of this social processing happens implicitly. The brain handles it automatically in the background. But for many neurodivergent people, social data must be processed explicitly. They must use conscious manual effort to calculate eye contact duration, police their vocal tone, and translate social subtext. This is known as masking. It forces the prefrontal cortex to run background processes manually, resulting in profound and rapid biological exhaustion. This brings us to a crucial reframe. Feeling socially drained is not a sign of weakness. It is evidence that your brain is performing incredibly complex, high-level calculations. You are highly attuned to your environment. A rapidly depleting social battery often indicates a deep sensitivity to micro-expressions, subtle shifts in tone, and underlying emotional currents. You are processing more data than the average person. The friction you feel is simply the byproduct of a highly sophisticated biological radar system doing exactly what it was designed to do. To manage this sophisticated radar system, we can deploy a second practical patch. I call this social preloading. Because uncertainty is what causes prediction errors, you can lower your metabolic cost by removing unknowns before the event begins. If you are going to a gathering, ask who exactly will be there. Look up the venue menu ahead of time. Clarify the expected duration of the event. Every variable you lock down in advance is one less real-time calculation your brain has to perform when you arrive. You are effectively pre-computing the environment. You can also use strict time bounding to protect your biological resources. Instead of leaving a social event open-ended, set a hard exit time. Tell your host you can only stay for exactly 90 minutes. When the brain knows there is a definitive endpoint, it manages its remaining glucose and oxygen more efficiently. The anxiety of an indefinite social drain disappears. You can engage more fully and presently in the conversation because your nervous system knows exactly when the computational demand will end. It is vital that you respect these boundaries because pushing your battery past zero triggers a cascade of negative physiological responses. As your brain struggles to keep up with prediction errors, it perceives the environment as a physical threat. Your body releases cortisol and adrenaline. Your parasympathetic nervous system withdraws, dropping your heart rate variability. Your brain begins shutting down non-essential executive functions to preserve baseline operations. This is why you become incredibly irritable, sensitive to bright lights, and unable to focus when you stay at a party too long. Stop apologizing for needing to leave early. Stop labeling yourself as antisocial or lazy. Your nervous system is not failing you. It is operating a highly sensitive, computationally heavy predictive model. When you say you are socially drained, what your body is actually communicating is that your glucose reserves are depleted and your predictive models need to idle. Treating this as a metabolic reality rather than a personality flaw gives you the permission to rest without guilt. You are simply respecting the limits of an organic inference machine. Here is your practical challenge for the next 48 hours. Notice the exact moment in your next social interaction when your focus begins to slip and the environment feels suddenly overwhelming. Do not push through it. Excuse yourself for 3 minutes. Go to a quiet room or a restroom and close your eyes. Give your brain 3 minutes of zero prediction errors. See how much longer you can engage afterward just by letting your nervous system reset. Start treating your social battery like the biological reality it is.